Have a seat on your porcelain throne. It's time to talk some shit on the Powell movement.
Welcome to the Powell movement. I'm your host, Mike Powell, and this week I've just returned from the WSM show. I'd call it a trade show, but it's different from the traditional trade show people are used to. This is all industry folks, and it's totally dead for the most part. But what happens here is business. The few people that were at the booths were the retailers, the buying groups, and people that were there to see the new shit, understand the sales programs, and place orders. Really, I'm sure most of the orders have already been placed. I mean, sales meetings for these lines and brands were almost 2 months ago, and the reps and brands want to get to selling right after those meetings. That's why everyone has an issue with these shows in the snow world, because they're always a little bit late. And this one is too, but whatever. Between this show and the snowboard-specific sales show the week before, no one really cares about the SIA anymore. For me, the show was great. I was one of the few media people there, and I had my meetings, saw all the new products, did my interview, and then I headed over to my good friend and former ski photographer's house, Alex O'Brien, to eat the elk that he killed, and we caught up. I will say, I haven't had elk before, but I now love it. People told me that it would have a gaminess to it, and I tasted none of that. It was delicious. I can't thank Mr. Al enough. And that was my trade show last week. And while I was really nervous about flying and being at the show and catching the virus, there was a reason for my concern. Utah doesn't give a fuck. A lot of places I went to outside the show, I was the only masked person. But the cool thing about this show was they had free COVID testing and I passed. So while I came home healthy, I'm doing it all over again this week. But this time, I'm gearing up for a totally different animal. OR, a real trade show that I love that is going to be packed with people and brands. Although a bunch have been pulling out over the past couple weeks. But this show is interesting to me. Over the years, it seems like it's been a wounded animal slowly bleeding out. And while I will call this out and complain about them not doing anything to stop the bleeding, I'm not just a complainer. I have ideas of how to help them out. I mean, shit, I've been trying to convince OR for years that we should work together. My ideas that have fallen on deaf ears include creating 52 weeks of content at their show with a booth footprint that I've come up with that would be a first of its kind and would be the most compelling booth at the show. And my end goal is to keep OR relevant all year long. I mean, let's be honest. They don't have the pull that they used to, and if they did, every ski and snowboard brand wouldn't have pulled out of the show or gone to WSM or another show. Anyways, I was talking to Adam Jabber, and he let me know that OR hired him to do a podcast with them. I was stoked for Adam, but pissed off at the same time. It's like, what the shit? What is one podcast going to do for you? And is there even a plan behind this podcast? And I can answer that. No, there isn't, because they don't have the right vision for this. And since OR had been ghosting me for a while, I emailed them again and again, trying to find out if they were going to do anything to keep themselves in their customer ears for the other 259 days a year. And you know what? They did get back to me finally, but they didn't mention they were going to do a podcast, but I already knew this. And while I don't agree with the marketing vision of the show, I do love OR and the people and want them to get better. And guess what? They wanted to keep me happy. So they asked me if I wanted to be on their comp list for hotels. Of course I did. And then they took care of my lodging. It was super nice of them, and while it does make me a little less pissed off, and it will shut me up a little bit, I can't totally be bought, and I'll still tell it how it is in my own opinion. But really, I'm going to the show for a few meetings and an interview, and I won't let you know who I'm going to interview because I still need to tell you who I'm interviewing this week. I'm psyched to say that I have a former ski industry visionary on the show. Dave Amirault earned the nickname Digi Dave because he is a digital marketing master who's run award-winning campaigns with resorts like Snowbird and Aspen and more. And before that, he cut his teeth at Freeskier magazine. And in the ski industry, where marketers seem to be about 10 years behind, kind of like the trade shows are, people like Dave are desperately needed. My chat with Dave tells his life and times and really gets pretty personal, and that's for a good reason. Dave is the first person I've had on who's come out. And as awesome as that was, well, it had some negative consequences, and we talk about it all. Before we get into it, I want to ask you to follow me on Instagram at The Powell Movement or on Twitter, as I've been more active there and my handle is Powell Movement 1. Please share and retweet my shit, as I'm learning the more time I put into my social, the more this show grows. Any help you can provide is appreciated. Finally, I want to thank my sponsors who make this thing happen. They are Elan Skis, Peter Glenn Ski and Sports, Alpine Vans, Stanley, and the 10 Barrel Brewery. Now, let's talk with Dave Amirault. So about 3-4 years ago, you and I had a conversation. You were at Snowbird and you said, Mike, I want to sponsor your podcast. And for me, it was a point in my life where I had like 3 sponsors. I was hoping to keep this thing going. And you had said yes. And you not only said yes to me, you said, Mike, raise your rate $50, book your family a trip to the Cliff Lodge, put it all in an agreement, send it over to me. This is a done deal. We are doing this. And I was psyched. I told my wife, I was like, babe, we have a sponsor that's going to help us get through this whole thing. And it was really exciting. And you even fired an email over to me to finish the whole thing off. And I'll read the actual email part. It said, also, what's your home address? I wear the K2 PBR sweater a lot. Time for me to repay the favor with one of the Snowbird sweaters I made. Well, I not only didn't receive your stupid sweater, but you never emailed me back. You never texted me back for like a year. And I don't hold grudges. And you know this. I mean, I bought you a tap and sent it to you out of the goodness of my heart. Just a gift I found at a thrift store. And I was like, Dave will love this. So there's no grudges. But what happened there? Because I still don't know. And it was like we had a deal and then we didn't.
I think it probably went to Kaufman.
But you had told me that we were going to do something. We had a verbal agreement, which I have a contract on my computer that I sent you, but really you just never wanted to text me back or email me back.
Was I still there?
Oh yeah, you were still there. You were there for another like 2 years.
2 years?
Yeah, it was very sad.
Man, it probably went to Kaufman though.
Well, it was very disappointing for me, and I had to get that out of the way first. But I don't hold a grudge, and you know that I don't hold a grudge.
I love how this is starting, though.
Yeah, well, I mean, I thought it was going to be like you'd have a story and you'd actually remember this, but you don't.
I'm trying to remember if I do have a story, and I honestly just don't remember. I have blacked out so much of that place in my head right now.
Okay.
I'm sure there's a good reason. Or maybe there just isn't a good reason.
I just thought you were being
probably went to Kaufman.
Well, it is what it is, and you know what? We didn't work together. The podcast was able to build anyway. The shitty thing was that I actually called other people, and I was like, hey, I've got to deal with Snowbird. I'm not going to be working with you. So I not only lost the dollars an episode that was in that contract, but the other money that other people were going to pay me, I lost that too, Dave. But you know what? We're not going to talk about that anymore. We're going to take it all the way back to Rhode Island, and that's where you're from. And I'm going to guess that you're either rich or from an upper middle class family because you're into computers and skiing and all things that cost a lot of money. But that's my assumption. What did the folks do?
Well, Mike, I also grew up racing sailboats.
Did you really?
No. Well, I went to sailing camp. But we, yes, did grow up in Rhode Island. Did not grow up with a silver spoon in our mouths. I'm very fortunate to have parents that worked extremely hard to get where they currently are. You know, we grew up, the 5 of us, in a 2-bedroom house in a place called Warwick, Rhode Island. And then over time, my dad just hustled and ground and worked his way up and bought an accounting practice and built it up. And now they're doing extremely well. I'm super proud of my parents. They have a gorgeous house on the water overlooking Narragansett Bay. But yeah, growing up, we really didn't have everything that you'd assume for a ski family.
And you did have a brother and sister, and I hear they're both totally different than you. Like, I hear your brother is pretty much straight out of Goodwill Hunting, Southie, like full-on construction worker accent, and totally different than Digi Dave. Is this correct?
My brother and I are exactly the opposite people. I wouldn't say he's directly out of Goodwill Hunting and is, dropping his eyes and all that stuff from Boston. But yeah, as far as what we're interested in, skiing's a common thread, but everything else is incredibly divergent. He's the exact opposite of me.
And the whole family skiing's a common denominator, like Wachusett for the weekends when you're home, and then Sunday River when you go on the big trips on the East Coast?
Yeah, it was more, that actually makes a lot of sense, Wachusett and Sunday River, but I was really the only one that was really into skiing. It was something we did as a family. My mom really wasn't into it, but as far as my dad, brother, sister, and myself, yeah, weekend trips to Maine, going to Sunday River, dragging them to Wachusett anytime I could before I had my driver's license.
So you get hooked from the get-go, and that's what you're dragging the family to do?
Pretty much.
And then the 1080 comes out and changes your whole life.
Yeah, I can blame a lot on that ski. Or things like 13 and Freeze Magazine and Freeskier. Just the changing of the sport around that time had such a huge impact on me because it took something that I already loved and made it really unique. And it felt like when I was participating in, we had the ability to change. And that ski was just the weapon that made it all possible.
And a big turning point in your life can be attributed to that ski because you break your arm at some point. I don't know if it's skiing, but I'm going to assume it is. And when you break your arm, it leaves you with nothing to do but take apart the family's home computer. And I'm sure that maddens the family, but what's the thought process?
Oh, man, Paul, you did your homework. I broke my arm rollerblading or inline skating, whatever the proper
Either way,
term
I love
is.
it, man.
Yeah, I know. I knew you'd get a big smile out of that. So yeah, I broke my arm when I was like 15 or 14. I forget what it was. And I was just laid up. And at that point, my parents bought a computer. And computers back in the day were big, metal, and about 4 feet tall and had about 1 million screws. And I learned to take it apart on the floor of my parents' house, which drove them insane because computers price adjusted to current money were like $4 to $5 grand.
Yeah.
So you can imagine like my dad and mom coming home and like every part of the computer is splayed out like on the living room floor and they're having a heart attack and like, what the hell did our kid do? And then they told me I couldn't take the computer apart anymore. So I learned how to build websites.
And this is at a time where the internet is in the infancy and it's about to blow up. And it's like the AOL days where you're getting the discs with like 300 free hours. Were you just that kid on the internet all night long?
Oh, dude, it was brutal, right? Like, I remember like scavenging discs just to get like more hours before it went unlimited. And like, if you at that point said you knew how to make a website, people looked at you like you were a fucking wizard, right? Mm-hmm. They're like, where does this superpower come from? And like, how do I get a website? It was just such a weird point. But yeah, all the time on the internet.
So when you're spending all that time on the internet, what does your high school life look like? What group do you fit in?
Dude, I kind of floated everywhere. I went to 2 high schools. So right at the point where I'd say my parents felt like they were making a little bit of money, they decided to send me to a private all-Catholic boys high school, which maybe explains a lot later down the road.
No, you're born that way, Dave.
Yeah. No, you're turned, Mike. And I really didn't like it. So none of my friends were there, and I went back to my public high school. So I had friends from my private high school, friends from my public high school. I was spending weekends skiing. I really didn't play any official sports. It's not like I ran track or played hockey or baseball or did anything. Really, all I did was like go home, use computers, learn how to build websites. And I had a digital camera way back in the day where like the photos were 640 by 480. They like a little thumbnail, like memory cards held like 4 pictures. And like I was always into photography and like creating things, but I didn't really like fit in it. You couldn't be like, Dave was a jock, Dave was a geek, or cool Asian. Like I didn't fit into any.
You're not Asian, Dave.
No, I know. That's why I wouldn't fit into that group.
Okay.
Or even the plastics. So yeah, I didn't really have like a designation.
And were you able to like parlay your website building? Is that when you kind of went to Wachusett or they knew that you could do stuff and you interned there for a bit?
No. So this is super funny. And it was Sunday River. Sunday River had a really terrible website back in the early 90s. And everyone had a terrible website. They were really just like brochure pages. But one thing they did have was this thing. Remember Resort Sports Network or RSN? They had like a forum on RSN. And I was pretty visible and present there because I had all the time in the world and a high-speed internet connection. I was constantly engaging with people in this forum. And over time, they learned I knew how to make websites. So at one point, they were like, well, next time you're up here, because I reached out to marketing and said, hey, I think I can help you with your website. And I remember they were like, yeah, next time you're up here, let's schedule a meeting. You want me to meet with our head of marketing and our head of communications? It'd be super cool to like just get to connect. So I went up to Sunday River with like my broken ass arm when everyone else was skiing. And I get to the front counter and the woman's like, all right, who are you here to see? And dude, I was probably like 105 pounds, like 4'8".
You're like a little kid. You look like a little kid now.
I look like one now. I'm 40, right? Like, so imagine like 15-year-old me. And I'm like, I'm here to see like Skip King, who's the head of communications. And she's just like, okay, weird, right? Calls him out. They come to the front door and like to come greet me. They think they're on candid camera, right? So they're laughing their ass off because on the internet, no one knows how old you are. It's not like you can look up someone's Facebook profile or LinkedIn or anything now and get a good picture. That stuff didn't exist. So they just thought I was older than I was.
And were you talking shit like, this website sucks and they don't know what they're doing?
No, I was just like full of enthusiasm. I had this skill and this passion and I was trying to bring the two together. And I was like, man, it'll be super exciting to do this. And oh my God, these are the opportunities. This is what we can do. And I'm just a ball of energy anyway. So they were like, well, let's meet this ball of energy. And it turns out to be like 15-year-old me.
So that's your foot in the door at Sunday River. That goes all the way through college, right? You're working with them through like Assumption College?
Yep, Assumption University now. I got the free upgrade which was nice when they got university status.
And that's what, like 30 minutes away from Sunday River?
No, God, no. That's like a 2 hour and 40-minute drive.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So like I was doing stuff like kind of remotely in community management, some website stuff, and just annoying the hell out of the marketing team from afar. But when I was at Assumption, Wachusett was 25 minutes away.
Okay.
So I actually met the owner of Wachusett, or one of the owners, Carolyn, and she was like, why don't you come help us out in marketing? So I was also interning in the marketing department at Wachusett for about a year and a half, which was super interesting. But then I just went, full on with Sunday River.
And so is your college life, do you have a life within school, or is it all based around skiing?
I had a very active social life in college. I had great roommates. They're still my best friends to the day. I was on student government. Like, I was super active in school. But also at the same time, like, if I wasn't around on a weekend, people knew it was because I was in Maine.
Okay.
Or I was just skiing, or I was at the Vermont Open, or hucking myself off a 30, 40-foot jump and getting hurt. Like, it's kind of how it was.
And when people are coming over, that's where you meet the Freeskiers and you meet your heroes. Like, who's the first person you met when you're interning at Wachusett or you're doing stuff at Sunday River where you're like, holy shit, I'm meeting my hero. And not only that, I almost see a path to a future in the ski industry.
Dude, X Games qualifiers at Mount Snow, right? So Mount Snow was close to Assumption, like an hour and a half, maybe under 2 hours. And I remember X Games qualies were at Mount Snow. And these are people that are qualifying for X, where you see them in Freeskier, Freeze, like whatever remedial websites exist at the time. I don't even think New Schoolers was a thing. Maybe it was, but it was super young. And you're like, holy shit, these guys are in front of us on the east doing this stuff. Because what you're used to seeing is like Super Park and stuff out west. And you're like, we're doing it here at Mount Snow. It's in Vermont. This is crazy that it's happening. This event's going to go off. And I just remember like watching them being like, holy crap, like this sport does exist out here. And it verified all the things that we were doing. Like, there was a small group of Freeskiers back east, right?
Yeah.
This is like putting the stamp of approval on the stuff that we're trying to get done. So at that point, I was like, this is real. These guys are my heroes. I'm watching it happen in front of my eyes. Can't believe this is happening.
And are you contributing then, like taking photos and trying to send them to whoever will take them?
100%, man. But I wasn't shooting on film. I had like my website, which was ozskier.com. Doesn't really exist anymore. And a blog. And I was just trying to get as much content online as I could because it didn't exist. You'd have to wait for like print or brochures or like a VHS tape to come in to figure out what the hell was going on in the sport. And I was like, this can happen in real time. Like, why don't we just create a home for this? So that's where things like New Schoolers came up, or like my tiny ass little website, or SAS Films. And that was such a pivotal point in like taking the media and putting it online and then exponentially growing the participation because so many other people were exposed to it around that young age because the adoption of technology was there. We just filled a hole with the content.
Well, I look at it with you just saying SAS Films and New Schoolers. It's like you can look at Neil from SAS Films.
Legend.
He created YouTube before there was YouTube, just with the films. And then you look at New Schoolers. That was like MySpace before MySpace almost. And those two guys between Neil and Harvey, were those kind of like inspirations for you of like, hey, I want to follow what those guys are doing?
Huge. Like that SAS crew with Neil and God, the Logans, everyone else that was there, right? That was the Mount Snow crew. The cool thing about being at Assumption was I was skiing Mount Snow a lot. Half the time I was clicking into skis was at Mount Snow. And the Inferno Park was going off at that point. And you had photographers on the come up, athletes coming up. Like, it was just this crew of people that were just hitting it so hard. And it was progressive in the tricks they were doing, the websites and the content. It was like the golden age of free skiing back in the East Coast. And that's how I got to know guys like Harvey and Neil and like everyone else in that crew. It was huge.
And by the time you graduate college, or I'm not even sure about the timeline, but you go out and visit your cousin in Colorado, and the Freeskier guys had told you, hey, give us a call whenever you're out here. We'll show you the office. And you go in to visit the office and you come out with the job. Is that kind of how it works?
Yeah, man. Okay, so I knew Chris Gerard and the Freeskier crew because every time they would come out back east and like go to an event, I would chauffeur them up to the event, take care of them, pick them up from the airport, like show them around. I was just like their guide for everything. And Gerard was like, yo, next time you're coming out to Colorado, hit us up. So my cousin at that point was living in Boulder. We decided for some reason to go skiing at Copper. At that point, they had the Cyber Cartel Young Gun Open, which was, right, like huge stuff. And Gerard was like, yo, next time you're here, come over to the office. We'd love to talk to you. And yeah, I got a job on the spot. Like the second I landed in Colorado, interviewed with the team there. Harvey was moving into the editorial role, and they were like, we need someone to take over the websites. and like kind of steer the next direction of this. So I come out of the office like 2 hours later, like this is Freeskier, right? This is the magazine I've been getting since I was a kid.
Yeah.
Right? I just got a job there. This is my first time out west. I haven't even put my skis on yet. So like you can imagine that like my stoke level is at about 1 million right now. And I played it super coy with my cousin, and he lived like 3 blocks from the office. He's like, hey, you meet like with the Freeskier guys? Like, all right, let's go to Copper. So like go to Copper, hang out with everyone from Freeskier because they're there for the Cyber Cartel Open, do the skiing, had like the most amazing time ever. We drive back to Boulder. My cousin is like, all right, let me drive you to the airport. I'm like, great. He's like, where are the rest of your bags? I had 1 bag in my hand. And I'm like, no, I'm just going to leave my skis and everything here at your house. I'll see it in 2 weeks. And he's like, what the hell are you talking about? I'm like, oh yeah, I'm the new online editor for Freeskier magazine.
Oh, it's incredible. It's a dream come true.
Yeah, dude, like it's just a life-changing thing. Like the biggest opportunity I've ever been given.
And the cool thing about Freeskier is, and I don't want to throw the word nerd out there, but the stuff that you're doing, building websites, that would be considered, especially back then, a nerdy thing. But Freeskier didn't look at you as a nerd. They put you front and center in a lot of different places. So when you're in the office, you're building websites and doing that. But then you're also covering events and being able to be like a reporter and a journalist.
Dude, it was a dream. I got to marry like the 2 main drivers of my life, which is skiing and technology. And like telling the story of free skiing and helping steer the sport in like a super small way. But we had a seat at the table for all that. And it was the media, the sport, the technology, all this amazing stuff happening at this kind of golden age of the sport where it was growing up. And we needed those web properties to exist. It was insane. Dude, I still look back at it and can't believe it happened.
It's got to be one of those jobs, though, where you're constantly working, where it's like you're either in the office or you're doing laundry or you're on a plane. I would think it gets to the point where I understand, because I was kind of in that position other than building websites, but where you're constantly traveling and it's just like you're complaining like, oh, I've got to go to South Bay next week and I really don't want to. And while that sounds like a snob type thing, when you're traveling and working 80 hours a week, sometimes you need a break. Did it kind of get that way?
Oh, and you realize that your car is at DIA more than it's at your own house? Yeah. You nailed it, man. That is a lifestyle job where you eat, sleep, and breathe the sport and the work. And the travel schedule is crazy, and you really don't have any like personal downtime at all. And if you do have personal downtime, you're trying to actually ski because, as you know, you go to a ski event, you don't actually ski. You sit on the side of a half pipe. You sit in your room with your laptop open, or you're at a dinner hosted by whatever resort or hard goods or soft goods manufacturer it is. There's just no like personal time. So it wears on you a lot, but it's also like, it's fun and it's so high paced. And if you're like me, where you're a ball of energy and ADD to the max, it kind of works. But for a lot of people, it doesn't, and they just like burn out.
No, I can totally see that. And I mean, you can only handle it, I would think, for a certain amount of time before it's time to go. But those are the golden years of your life where you're young and you can just travel all the time. I would think the best brand event that you ever went to, and I'm saying this because I was a part of it, was Camp K2.
I knew this would come up.
And that was an incredible one. And I've talked about it a bunch on the podcast, and you were there. And other than Camp K2, what were the best events that you went to in terms of brand building?
Paul, I'll stroke your ego for a minute here. Camp K2 is insane. That was the first time I met Shane. I got to ski with Shane. I met Pep. I got to sleep under a half pipe.
We got 18 inches of snow in April.
And Baker was closed, and it was just ours. Yeah. And that was my first time to Baker. So, like, you can imagine me. I'm just a sponge for traveling all these legendary places that I've never been to. And you call and say, hey, we want you to come to this thing. Oh, and by the way, the mountain's closed, and it's just us. So you're going to be surrounded by like-minded people, and then, oh, the dash of flavor on top is the most legendary athletes in the world, people that you've looked up to since you were a kid, are going to be here. It's like, this is my job now. What the fuck is happening? Right? And I wanted to wear the lanyard, man, because I actually still have the beer punch card at my house somewhere.
Oh, nice.
I was just like trying to find it, and I couldn't dig it up in time. But you have to throw X Games in, right?
But that's not a brand building event.
It's not a brand building event.
I mean, you probably did the Solomon Jib Academy, which probably built a lot of stuff for kids, I would think.
Well, Solomon brought me to Chamonix for the first time.
That's pretty incredible.
That was like, I just remember calling my mom being like, I'm getting sent to France. And she's like, for what? Like, my parents, they had no idea what I did. They're like, he's doing something in skiing for a magazine. I really don't get it. I'm like, no, I'm going to France right now with like the Solomon team. We're going to Annecy, then we're going to Chamonix. And I'm going with Mike Douglas. My mom's like, that's the guy on your wall, right? I'm like, yeah, that's the guy on my wall, right? There are too many to count, Mike. Like, there are like these moments etched into my brain. I've just been to so many amazing things.
It's time for my first sponsor break, and I'm going to start out with the 10 Barrel Brewery out of Bend, Oregon. Not only do they make the Northwest's best beers, but if you haven't tried their clean line seltzers or cocktails in a can, well, you're missing out. And you can try just about everything at their Denver, Portland, Boise, and Bend-based pubs. Really, 10 Barrel specializes in everything that I think is fun. Skiing, snowboarding, biking, and drinking beer outside. And from supporting a world-class team of athletes that includes Lucas Walks, Ejack, Curtis Cizek, Kate Zeleth, Carson Storch, and Ben Ferguson, they also create countless events and host their own, like their epic Pray for Snow parties. On top of that, they give back to causes like Protect Our Winners. They have supported this podcast for years, and to celebrate that, next time you're at the store, pick up a 6-pack of 10 Barrel and drink it outside. For more on everything 10 Barrel, head on over to 10barrel.com. Next up is Elan Skis, and I've told you before how much fun I'm having on my Ripstick 96 Black Edition. And for the past decade, I've skied a wider ski because that's what I thought people did in the Northwest. And I've had a blast on my Ripstick 106. But when it's hard and fast out there, the 96 is so much more fun. That carving sensation, well, I feel it a whole lot more, and I'm hooked on the more narrow-waisted ski. And being that these skis are made in Elan's best-in-class factory in Slovenia, the quality of my skis is visibly better than anything else on the wall. Next time you're at a place that you can demo some skis, try something out of the Ripstick line and you will be sold on Elan just like I am. They are so good and they're always good times. To find out more about the skis, message me or check out elanskis.com. My final sponsor is Peter Glenn Ski and Sports. They have been getting people on the mountain for longer than almost anyone, and they know retail and the internet. And they always have something cool going on their Instagram page. This week, they're teaming up with 686 to give away a HydroStash Smarty Vest, which is an amazing combination of the weatherproof and waterproofness that 686 is known for, along with a stealthily positioned 25-ounce water bladder. And entry is easy. First, follow Peter Glenn Sports and 686 on Instagram. Second, like Peter Glenn's 686 giveaway post. Third, tag 2 friends in the comments who need this product. It's that easy, and the winner will be announced February 11th. Good luck, and head on over to peterglenn.com for all of your product needs. Those are my sponsors. Now let's jump back into the podcast. Well, another thing that you did other than go to amazing events with Freeskier as you check your watch, and I will say that you talk with your hands a lot, so the audience might hear a little banging, and that's quite all right, but I'm just going to call it out. But either way, you did a lot of things with brands and traveling with brands. But another part of your role was building different properties and building creative things online for brands. What were like the standout things that you were able to build? Because I'm sure every brand came to you and said, hey, we want to do something different and we want it to be totally unique. And I know we used to do it all the time, but we'd come with ideas. But I'm sure other brands just said, hey, we want to do something different and unique. What was the best of what you were able to build that you're like super proud of?
Okay, so this comes back to when we pivoted Freeskier to be the first action sports community-driven website where anyone could post anything that they want, but it was like news-based. Like New Schoolers was kind of like a forum, and ours was like, no, we're going to build, imagine like an ESPN.com that anyone can contribute to. And plugged into that, we had this system that would render video or upload photos and render them correctly. So we just took it and made these microsites on top of it. One that was super cool was the local Land Girl contest. Land came to us, was like, we've got the legend of the Land Girl. How do we like make this a contest where anyone can upload their own photos and like apply to be the local Land Girl? And we'll like make one in each like Pacific Northwest, East Coast, Colorado, Utah. Let's get Land Girls in like every zone. And we were like, this is a killer idea. And we can take our platform and like mold it around this so that people could upload their own photos and make a profile, and then people could upvote and downvote like who's going to be the next Land Girl. And then we've got the magazine, like we can make like a killer poster or like spread in it and like activate it in print, and now it's in digital. We did stuff with Technica. I mean, it just seemed like every 2 months I was having to make like a new campaign or new microsite or new co-branded thing with a hard goods or soft good provider. It was crazy. But the Land Girl one was kind of wild because this was like cowboy days of the internet, and you let like anyone upload anything to it. And it's like we just made our own like mini U-porn for a minute.
So you weren't really vetting everything that came up and then you'd pull something eventually because you had to?
Well, like I remember like we had an inbound queue where like on the back end, we could see everything being submitted. And then we had to like make an approval system because like initially we didn't have it. And like women were uploading their own profiles and it was like, okay, I don't think they understand what the spirit of the contest is.
They were just showing skin to win?
Yeah, dude. It was just all TNA and like X-rated stuff. And so we had to make like a content approval system and build that in. But like cowboy days of the internet, man.
Cowboy days of the world, because that stuff wouldn't fly anymore. I don't think you could do a Lang Girl contest and get away with it as a magazine, as a brand, as anybody.
No, absolutely not.
But the great thing about working at a magazine is that you get to meet every single person within the industry. I mean, you knew everyone at K2, everyone at every single brand, and you did stuff for them that they were really stoked on. So everybody knew your talents and your abilities and what you were able to create, and that you had this talent that not too many other people had. I would think that's how the job opens up with Aspen, is like they knew exactly what you were able to do, and they were like, we're going to cherry pick this guy, and we're going to rule the digital space within the resort world.
Very true. The Aspen job also came because I was helping them with a lot of youth marketing efforts at the time. Freeskier is a great job, but it didn't pay anything.
What do you make, like 35 grand there, 40 grand?
God, no. First year, 26.
Okay.
Right? With no health insurance. We didn't get health insurance until like my second or third year.
That's batshit crazy.
Batshit crazy, right? So like a lot of us had side hustles. I built Silverton's first website and ticket system with a friend of mine. Right? I was doing web projects for ski resorts all over the country. I was hosting events for Aspen and helping with youth marketing. And you kind of nailed it with Freeskier. There's a time period and shelf life to that job where you can only run for so hard for so long. And usually it's about 4 years before, at that point, people were just completely burnt out. And they couldn't eat ramen noodles anymore. And they were like sick and tired of watching their friends like buy houses and have things like a garage or a second bedroom or like a second toilet in their house.
Right.
So you're like, I might have to grow up at this point, but you have all this amazing experience and you nailed it. Like, you know everyone in the industry. And as long as you do right by them, they'll have your back and like offer you opportunities. So one came up in Aspen. Jean Mikowski was the VP of marketing at that time. And she fought tooth and nail to get me into the marketing department. It wasn't for a specific role. She was just like, we got to have you here. We don't know what the title is. We'll figure it out when you get here. And that was literally it. Like, got to Aspen, realized I was now in charge of like one of the most reputable and biggest resort brands in the world. And was like, okay, now what do I do? And in my head, it was just don't fuck it up.
Yeah. So you're like the senior interactive marketing manager at Aspen. And we don't really need to talk about what all that means because really, when you're at Aspen, you're creating all this digital content and doing digital stuff that we're not going to talk about. But you're like the mayor of that fucking town.
Yeah. There are many mayors in Aspen.
But you had the keys to do almost anything you wanted. I heard if you were to go places, it was like free drinks everywhere you went. Everybody knew who Digi Dave was. And it's your personality. You're definitely going to get to know people. But first, was it a big pay bump when you moved to Aspen?
Oh, yeah, it was huge.
Like you double or triple your salary, and then you also have the keys to the city after about a year, I would think, because you're there for like 4. But after year 1, like you know everyone and you can do pretty much everything.
Okay, yeah. So I'll tell you a brief story about the magic of the Aspen Snowmass credit card. Hallie O'Brien, who has another great podcast, a dear friend of mine, she was there with her boyfriend at the time, which was Joe Hession, who owns Mountain Creek and the indoor skier and Big Snow and all that. Love him. I noticed that someone high up from Twitter was there. Being a nerd, you know all the decision makers. And I'm like, holy crap, that guy works on the legal team at Twitter. And we were at the Red Onion. So I was like, went up and introduced myself. Hey, man, it's great to have you in town. I'm Dave. I run social media, for Aspen. Love your product. Super cool. Yeah, great. Oh, man, it's great. I follow you guys. Super cool. I'm like, awesome. I look at the bartender, who's a buddy of mine. And then I like look left, look right. I'm like, I think there's about 40 people here. So I go, Pat, 40 Bay Breezes. Right? So Pat Sewell makes 40 Bay Breezes. I'm passing them around the bar. And people go, why did Digi Dave just buy 40 Bay Breezes? But the guys on Twitter, who all have a huge following, just posted, holy crap, I just met the guy in charge of social media in Aspen, and he just bought 40 Bay Breezes for the entire bar. Right? The earned media potential there is stupid, right? That'll get a couple 100,000 eyeballs.
And that's just not earned media for Aspen. That's earned media for Digi Dave as well.
Totally, right? Life hack, right? I can go buy as many ads as I want on Twitter. But if I get like the head of legal at Twitter who has a zillion followers to like, I'm having the best time in Aspen ever. Holy crap, 40 Bay Breezes. These guys get social media. Boom.
It's amazing what a drink will do, huh?
Right? So yeah, you're absolutely right. Like having the ability not only to steer and control that brand, but to do things at the time that were kind of unorthodox as far as brand building or building affinity or like a social following were super important. because no other resorts are doing it.
No, I mean, you were on the forefront of building all of that personally as well as for the resorts.
Yeah.
I mean, like, your following started a long time ago before anybody was thinking about it, and now you are where you are today because you were thinking about it 15 years ago when no one else was thinking about it, and you were doing it better than anybody else. But when I think of Aspen, I think of all the celebrities that go there, and what are the best celebrity moments there? Because you had to have some of those,
I'll
too.
tell you one. Okay, so my Labradoodle just turned 9. Shout out to Rudy Doodle.
I hope he's doing better.
He's doing great, man. He had cancer. We had surgery. It was a rough month.
How much does that cost for a dog?
Oh, God.
Tech money, man. You're okay with it.
Tech money. Yeah, tip to tail on that. We're probably $6,000 into that. But, dog insurance.
Yeah, I got dog insurance, too.
Yeah, it's just part of being a responsible dog owner and not going broke.
Yeah.
Right? If you think how crazy healthcare expenses are for a person, they're just as crazy for a dog.
Yep.
So anyway, I'm walking Rudy downtown. He's a cute little chocolate Labradoodle. Looks like a stuffed animal. And this guy behind me goes, "Nice dog." And I'm like, what is it, a bad Schwarzenegger accent?
Yeah.
No, a Schwarzenegger. Like, I turn around. It's the fucking governor behind me telling me that I have a cute dog. Like, oh, hi. Yeah, great. Oh, this is Rudy, right? What you learn there is just there's so many celebrities. Just treat them like normal people. Like, Peyton Manning will be in the next booth over to you having lunch. You're not supposed to lean over and be like, "Hey, Peyton, I love, you're my favorite. Like, can you sign this?" Like, they're there to escape and have a good time. You don't need to bother them.
But I would think for your position, to a guy like Peyton Manning, if he were to get to make some turns with you, he'd go to his friends and be like, "Oh yeah, I was with the guy who runs Aspen's marketing and blah, 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 blah."
Those people are going to be on the hill, and what Aspen does better than any ski resort is provide the best ski experience ever. They're going to talk about it no matter what. I don't need to put myself in front of a celebrity to be like, "I met Duchy Dave, the head of social for Aspen." I want them to have the best Aspen experience that they can, because I have full confidence that once they get on the hill, it's going to be the best time they've ever had on snow compared to anywhere else that they've skied, aside from places in Europe where you can just be an absolute lunatic. But that was at least my pull behind it. I never wanted to get in front of them.
Did you ever ski with anybody famous?
Oh, hell yeah, dude, all the time.
I just want you to name drop, and I want to get excited about the people that you've skied with.
Okay, so I remember I got in the gondola one time, and I was super privileged. I lived a couple blocks from the gondola for 4 years in a 380 or 400 square foot apartment with my dog.
Dear garage.
Totally. It was like a hot plate, mountain bikes, skis, and as many clothes as you could fit into it.
And what'd you pay for that?
This was the great part. I had housing provided by Aspen.
Amazing.
$725 a month, heat and parking included. The only thing I had to pay for was the internet, and I split it with 2 people.
And the internet's your favorite thing in the world. You're going to pay as much as it costs.
Dude, run fiber to the house if you can.
Yeah.
Right? But yeah, housing was included in my job. They wanted me in town, right? If you're going to run the brand and eat, sleep, and die by it, you got to be in it.
Yeah.
Right? So I wasn't down in Carbondale. I wasn't in Snowmass. I wasn't past the roundabout. I was downtown Aspen. So I walk up to the gondola one day, I get in, and this guy, I'm staring at this guy in front of me. I can't quite put my finger on who he is. He's got his helmet on and his goggles down. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? Right? Goggles come up, look at me, all right, sharp nose. Who is this guy? Is it Howard Stern? No, it's not Howard Stern. He doesn't ski. Takes his helmet off. It's Kenny G. Ends up being the nicest dude in the history of time. Talked to him the entire way up.
Did he play a note the whole lift
dude,
up?
He just pulled a woodwind instrument out immediately and just serenaded me to the top. I had to turn the Bluetooth system off in the gondola. No. Those kind of moments always happen in Aspen. You never know who you're going to ride a chair with or be sitting next to at lunch or...
I was at a restaurant with Sean Pettit and Don Johnson was sitting right across from us, and it was just holy shit. It was at the place that brings you for a dessert for a birthday. It looks like a dick and you have to eat it.
L'Osteria.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And it's huge. It's not like a small dick. It's fucking huge.
Yeah.
It's gigantic.
It was really, really funny.
And it's a spectacle when they bring it. It has candles and sparklers.
Yeah, exactly.
It's an event. Yeah.
You could see Don Johnson and all those people looking at us we were the center of attention, which is pretty funny.
R.I.P. to L'Osteria. It's gone. Like most places in Aspen.
Aspen's also home of the X Games. And what does a day at X look like for Dave?
No sleep. X is happening right now. My Google Photos is hey, on this day 6 years ago, 7 years ago, 8 years ago, 9 years ago. Because I went to X every year at Freeskier. And that was for 4 or 5 years. And then I went every year in Aspen. So I was part of X. Either on the media side or on the resort and execution and media side for 9 or 10 years. It's incredibly tiresome. It's an early call in the morning. It's a late night because you're at crazy things like the Target House. Shout out to Troy. Still, most legendary parties ever were thrown by Target.
I went to one and it was very fun.
Dude, well, were you at the one where like, oh, who's that playing guitar? Because they have a room sponsored by Fender and it's like Tom Morello.
Comes up a lot in the podcast that's going to launch on Monday with Josh Dueck. Yeah.
Yeah. Just craziest parties ever. It's just a super long day. And you run incredibly hard for the entire event. You're cold. You're tired. You're hungover. You're having the best time of your life. And then at the end of it, you always get sick for at least like a day or two and crash. And like the office is empty. And like you just need to like put an electric blanket on, draw the shades, and sleep in your house and drink nothing but tea for like 2 days. It's brutal.
Cool. Well, that I would say is the Aspen experience because you do it for 4 years. And we're not going to talk about what you did there other than the fun stuff, which I'm going to say is that stuff. But then you end up at Sierra at Tahoe. And for me, I wonder why anybody would leave Aspen because it's such an amazing place. But is it for terrain? Do you go to Sierra because of terrain and snow? Or what's the deal?
It sure as fuck wasn't the budget, Mike. In Aspen, no one leaves that company ever. There's very little upward mobility because it's such an amazing place to live and such a great company to work for. So you have this headwind, which is if you want to advance your career, you have to wait for someone above you to die.
That's like with all the great jobs in skiing.
100%. And at that point, I had the connections. I was doing some pretty eye-opening work as far as media and ad campaigns and online and social and all these things with Aspen. It was gaining me some attention in the greater resort community. And I can remember I kept turning down jobs to go to other resorts. And they were either like director of marketing or assistant director of marketing, just things that were leveling up. They were smaller resorts. Because really, there's not really anything bigger than Aspen, except for like Whistler, right? And I wasn't going to go to Vail Resort. I'm the Antichrist to them anyway.
Me too.
Yeah. Cheers. So I remember, like, I just kept turning down these opportunities. And John Rice, who's the general manager of Sierra Tahoe, is a guy that I've known and looked up to for a long time because John was one of the first guys to really embrace terrain parks and run with it and integrate it into, like, the DNA of the resort and not just make it like an afterthought. Like, yeah, we have a terrain park. It's over there. He was like, no, park and pipe and this culture is like part of our brand and we're going to nurture it. We're going to sponsor athletes. We're going to be true to the community. Like,
he's a visionary.
A great, amazing guy.
And like, legendary guy.
Legendary guy. Everyone that I talked to when I was presented with this opportunity, hey, Sierra Tahoe like is interested in me being the head of marketing and sales. They were like, you'll learn so much from John. You got to go. Like, it's a crazy opportunity. I know it's smaller than Aspen, but like what I lacked in Aspen was the operational experience from like having boots on the ground, like mountain ops experience.
Running a resort.
Because like the marketing team in Aspen is across the street from the airport. It's not slopeside at one of the mountains. I don't sit in mountain operations meetings except for when I'm doing things for Park and Pipe or photo shoots or video shoots or like commercial shoots.
You're creating a buzz for the online community.
Totally. And then like that's going to satisfy that growth potential that I want to run a team, to get that mountain operations experience. And at that point, they're at this pivotal time where they're like, look, our website's not great. We don't understand customer relationship marketing, databasing, websites. They're trying to modernize. They didn't even have cell phone access at that point, Mike, or like high-speed internet. So it was like, we're looking for someone like you that's going to come in, that was born in the digital era, that understands all this, that can help drive these changes at the resort. So to me, I was like, I can stay in Aspen and I can wait it out until someone dies and keep living in my 400 square foot box, or I can take a chance, move to Tahoe, live in a house, get to work under this amazing guy that has all this street cred and like respect in the industry, learn from him, and then parlay that in a few years to now running one of the bigger resorts, right? I thought I'm going to be here for 4 or 5 years and then maybe it'll be like a Squaw Valley or back to Aspen or Steamboat, whatever it is, right? Choose your big resort. So I packed up and moved to California. And it wasn't what I thought it was going to be.
It's time for my second round of sponsors, and I'm going to start out with the Seattle brand that has been around since 1913. I'm talking about Stanley, and they invented the category of keeping things hot and cold. Sure, there are a ton of overpriced copycats out there, but no one delivers the quality and, most importantly, the ability to keep things hotter or colder for longer than Stanley. I use the water bottles and pint glasses on a daily basis, and on weekends, their food storage solutions are perfect for all the foods you bring to eat at your local ski area. And while I know this won't last forever, the best deal you're going to find on any Stanley products anywhere comes through my podcast. I'm going to save you 30% off everything Stanley. All you need to do is go to stanley1913.com, go shopping, and when you check out, enter the one-word code DRINKFAST to get that deal. If you spend $75, I'll throw in a limited edition Powell Movement beanie. And last but definitely not least is Alpine Vans. Alpine Vans is your one-stop shop for your dream adventure mobile. If you haven't checked out the Cody Townsend van video on their homepage, watch it, and you're going to see why Alpine Vans are leaps and bounds ahead of the competition, which is why they only have 2 vans left to build out this season. And they have big plans for next year. So if you want to get one of those 2 vans that they have left, well, head over to alpinevans.com and fill out their thoughtful quote builder and questionnaire. While I can't guarantee you'll get one of the last 2 practical, durable, easy-to-use vans that they have in stock, it's worth a try. And if you don't get one, I recommend holding out for next fall. And that's all I can really say because Alpine Vans has big plans, but they won't let me tell you about them until the fall. So check out Alpine Vans, see what they're able to do, and hold tight until you can get your hands on one of those vehicles. Those are my sponsors. Now let's jump back into the podcast. You nailed the worst possible winter that you could ever nail, which sucks for you. But at the same time, what really sucks for you is the winter's so bad that you have a big team and you have to lay them all off. And I say furlough or whatever, but You're laying people off. People expect to get a paycheck for another 8 to 10 weeks. And you're saying, hey,
or more.
Yeah, you're saying, hey, we can't pay you anymore. You guys understand, but you are the dude that has to lay off a lot of people. And you're like really young at that point. Like, how hard is that for you to furlough all those people? Because you still had a job at that point. Before you found out you were being furloughed, you were laying off a lot of people. They probably looked at you like, fuck, man, he's staying here and we don't have a job. Is that like one of the toughest things you had to do in your career?
Probably one of the hardest things ever. You know, we closed the resort mid-March. So a full month before, or a month and a half, because that place closes end of April. And I just remember like being at my house and saying, if I was in their shoes, what would I want my boss to say to me? And it was just be honest, don't sugarcoat it, and just give it to them how it is, right? So yeah, I had to furlough almost everyone on my marketing and sales team, and then myself.
They're your friends too, because I'm sure that you make your team like they're tight with you and you're all going to war together to pretty much better this resort. But then you have to lay all of these guys off, but you still have a job. So you're like, hey, I'm still working. Does John have to come in and furlough you? Did you see the writing on the wall? Did you know you were going to lay them off and then you were going to be killed?
I assume so. It wasn't a surprise when it happened to me. And like, kudos to John. John's such a great leader and he's so honest that it really wasn't like this weird uppercut or like sucker punch or anything. Like, you knew it was going to happen. And he was extremely clear about what I could do. You know, here's what you can get for unemployment. Here's where we think we're going to come back at the earliest or the latest. Here's how you can plan. Like, we're so sorry, right? And I'm the new guy that just made this big leap.
Yeah, you gave up the best job in skiing for an average job in skiing. And then you had to like kill a lot of people, which sucks and makes that average job even worse. Then you lose your job, but you have the Summer of Digi, which you can go and put on social media, but it's still got to be a bummer that you can't be working and doing what you want and learning all the things you want to learn.
Yeah, it is. But at the same time, Mike, that's a leadership position, right? I had a senior management position in Aspen, but I wasn't leadership. At Sierra Tahoe was my first taste of what it truly takes to be a leader, right? I was thrown into the fire, and I learned so much in that 1 year being at Sierra. If it was smooth sailing and we had a 500, 600-inch snow year and everything was gangbusters and we were making money hand over fist, everyone looked smart.
Yeah.
I think what I learned from there hardened me up and made me that much better at my job, because when you have that kind of pressure applied to you and the chips are down, that's what truly defines a good boss, a good leader, a good management culture, and like doing right by your employees. So I still stick by like, yeah, that was a tough experience, but I'm way better for it.
Yeah, I mean, when everything's going well, everybody's a genius in this industry.
Mm-hmm.
It's when it doesn't snow that the real leaders step up and
Totally.
have to make a difference. But you didn't quit your job. You stuck with them for a little bit, or you were intending to stick with them, but then Snowbird comes a-calling.
Yeah.
And you got to figure that Sierra's not going to have 2 terrible years in a row. But I don't even remember what it was the second
It was like
year.
3.
What? They had 3 terrible
It's
years
like
in a row? So I guess it's a gamble there. But what was the reason for going to Snowbird? Was it just because it was Snowbird?
Yeah. I mean, you're presented with an opportunity to go run marketing for one of the most prestigious resorts ever that gets the most snow, that has the best terrain, and now they're serving that up to you. Like, how do you ever say no to that? Like I said prior, like I thought it was going to take me 4 to 5 years until a larger resort was going to come calling, and I'd have those type of opportunities at least on the radar. And it was a year.
That's incredible. And you take that deal and you are the keeper of that brand.
Yeah.
You create a playbook that's going to last forever there. But I also feel like with all the different things that you were doing, you kind of lose a little bit of the nerd stuff that you love to do. And I think one of the game-changing things that you did before the virus happened was a ride-sharing app, which you were able to build something that could have been huge until like the virus happened. But I mean, it's got to be one of those things that you were like so stoked and proud of, that you were able to create something that's not only better for the environment, but it like satisfied your programming and stuff that I can't even talk about.
Yeah, it's creative problem solving with technology, right? We needed to reduce the amount of cars in Little Cottonwood Canyon. How do you do that? Well, if more people carpool, then there are less cars on the road. Then more people can come skiing. Then you're not dealing with the parking bullshit. So how do you solve that? Well, guys, everyone's carrying a phone. Why don't we just create something that incentivizes people to carpool? We can run it off like the loyalty API and all the stuff in the ticket system and grant them access to products or discounts or in-resort money or things that you can't buy, right? Like if you can get an early tram just because you carpooled, you can't buy an early tram, right? So let's start to like put our money where our mouth is and like start to offer this up to people. So I locked myself away with 2 other guys and we created the Ride app, which was on Android and iOS, and it was platformed on Amazon and had infinite scale. And you could open it and see, hey, I want to go to Snowbird tomorrow. Who's driving up? Can I get a spot in your car? So you'd sign up and say, I'm Mike Powell. I have a Land Rover. I don't know what you drive right now. I have 4 extra seats, and I'm going skiing Saturday. And then it would say, Mike Powell has 4 extra seats on Saturday. And the more people that you got in your car, the more we'd incentivize you. And we would calculate the amount of carbon offset that you'd have based on your vehicle and the amount of miles driven and say, hey, congratulations, this is what you saved in CO2 emissions. This is the rewards for all those other people. And thanks for not having 5 cars drive up the road.
And I feel like if this virus didn't happen, that's something that would still be going and people would be talking about it as an award-winning thing that happened in skiing way past your time there. Yeah. But it was really like an innovative thing that really could change things. The most innovative thing that people know about that you did was the 1-star campaign. Yeah. And when I think about the 1-star campaign, there's got to be one guy who came up with the idea that was like, hey, we're going to take our worst review and base all of our marketing on it. Is there a guy within a marketing firm, or is it you, or who creates the 1-star idea?
The nexus of the entire campaign was something on Reddit, and it was a sandwich board. I forget where the restaurant was or sub shop, but it said, come on in and have the world's worst sandwich according to this chick's name on Yelp. And I was like, that's fucking perfect, right? Like, screw Karen or whatever her name was. Like, the product is great, right? And you look at what Snowbird was. Snowbird's a tough mountain. There's really no beginner terrain. It's not known for grooming. It doesn't hold your hand, right? And prior to my arrival, they were really marketing to families, which was a huge miss, right? Because they saw the money being made in Park City and said, well, we should get some of that. So they took their eye off the ball and marketed to the wrong audience. And people were showing up to the resort and were terrified because they were beginner intermediate skiers, and they get out of the tram and realize they've 3,000 vertical feet below them. That is nothing but couloirs, moguls, and maybe 2 groom runs to the way down, right?
They're going to die.
They're going to die, right? Like, this is the problem when you don't understand who your core audience is, right? And they were leaving reviews that were like, this place sucks, right? And what I would tell people is, you have to realize that, I'll put it in terms of a summer vacation. There are beach trips and surf trips. Snowbird's a surf trip. Why would you ever market it as a beach vacation? It's the last place where you're going to sit down and relax and do anything, right? There's no nightlife there because if you ski the place the right way, you're asleep by 8.
Yep.
Right?
And every time I go there, it's like 10 o'clock's a late night there.
Yeah, you're dead. So we were like, well, how do we identify like the core strengths of the resort and then build a tribe for the people who truly belong here, right? So let's tell the story of the people who clearly have no business being here. And at a ski resort, right, you have net promoter scores and guest feedback and comment cards and everything. And I built a system there that digitized all of it and pulled it in, no big surprise. But we could segment all the data based on who gave us terrible reviews. And then when we started to read them, there was a common thread. These people didn't belong here. So let's just say why they didn't belong. Well, the terrain was too steep. The powder was too deep. Yeah, that's exactly the same reason that our core audience wants to come to this place. Like, it's perfect. So we paired that with just amazing photography that juxtaposed their stupid ass comment.
So is that you that finds this ad, though?
Yeah.
You're the person that found that 1-star ad for the sandwich shop, pitched it to your marketing firm that you're working with, and like, hey guys, we're going to base the campaign on this. I don't know exactly what it looks like, but this is the backbone of everything that we're going to do. And they're like, we're going to build the shit out of this.
We built the shit out of it. It was 1,000% a team effort between us and the agency.
You're the ideator.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive. I didn't know who it was because it could have been anybody if you're working with an agency. But you saw that, you gave them the direction, and the 1-star award-winning campaign, given you might not have created all the ads or picked everything, but the idea behind it was the Dave Amirault idea.
Yeah, and they came up with assigning a rating to it. And when you go to buy something on Amazon, what's the first thing you look for?
The reviews and the ratings.
But what reviews do you look for first?
I mean, I usually look at just to see how many thousands of good reviews there are. I don't look at the bad ones.
You don't look at the bad ones? Most people go and immediately glom onto the bad ones. They want a reason to justify why they're not going to purchase something. And we were like, that's a lightning rod. And the agency was brilliant about this. They came back with the research and we're like, that's what they usually look for. If we can put that front and center and get this out there with a big snappy headline and then inject their comment in and we can juxtapose it with the amazing creative that you guys have. Like, and I remember the first time, like, we were actually sitting in the same room that we're recording this. My office is the old office of my agency. Okay. And that TV that you're looking at right now is what we first saw it on. And I was like almost in this exact seat. And I just remember looking at it and standing up and going, that's it, we're done. Let's go. And I came back to Snowbird and we had other ideas for our campaign. Snowbird had never really worked with an ad agency before that. So that's why the ads were all kind of like bad. I came back and I remember I had to pitch this to, at that point,
old people.
Yeah, old white guys. And I showed them all the campaign concepts and I gave everyone a sticky note. And there were like 4 campaign concepts. The super bold one, 1-star. The safe bet, medium bet, and then like the throwaway, right? Because that's, right? And I remember showing them everything and I showed them 1-star and like, you can see their buttholes kind of clench up.
Like they just didn't get it.
No, they got it because they were skiers. But they were like, we don't know if that's an ad campaign. So what I made them do is I passed around sticky notes. Said, I want you to rank these 1 through 4. And then on a count of 3, we'll all put the sticky notes on the table. And I'm like, oh God, like I'm going to vote for 1-star. Maybe the less old white guy is going to vote for 1-star, and the old guy is going to vote for the safe bet. To my surprise, they all voted for 1-star. And I just remember looking down going, holy shit, we're fucking doing it. Like, we're going to do this. And then we went and crafted the 5 or 6 or 7 or 10. I forget how many. We did a lot of iterations of the campaign. And then it went crazy.
That was amazing. You've seen so many people rip it off after the fact.
Everyone.
Yeah, given you ripped it off from a sandwich shop.
Totally.
But either way, it was amazing to see it on a big scale, and it was funny to everybody who got it, and to people that didn't get it, they just maybe didn't understand, but they shouldn't be coming to Snowbird.
That's exactly it. Like, the tribe got it, and the tribe was like, you made this for us, we love you even more. And like, the people that had never been to Snowbird but were skiers were like, that's where I should go. These guys get me. Like, if you're a squash skier and you've never been to Snowbird, you're like, I know where I'm fucking going this year.
For sure,
like, Telluride, like, let's vacuum up all the core audiences, because what other resort could do that? Like, we were...
Jackson Hole.
Jackson, yeah, right? But like, you have to remember that the historical marketing prior to this was we were making family campaigns with like families dressed up as Skittles standing on top of Hidden Peak, not even skiing, looking at each other being like, what a great vacation, right?
Yeah.
It was like a Park City version of Snowbird. And I just remember saying, like, the differentiator here is Park City could never run that ad. They can't get 500 inches of snow. They can't have 3,000 vert. They can't have our terrain. They can't have any of this. This is who we are. And then everyone flocked.
I mean, it was amazing, and I think everybody in the industry really appreciated it. And I will say that the biggest part of your life when you were working at Snowbird is that you came out. And while the show is not about sexuality by any means, that's a huge moment in your life. And you were like full on letting people know, and it was a big deal. Me and many other people, I mean, I'm sure hundreds and lots of people texted you just really proud of you, because it was a big deal. And why does it take you so long to let people know who you really were?
It's tough, right? I use the word headwinds a lot, especially in the ski industry. A lot of them are weather or the economy or whatever. But for me personally, there weren't other people to look up to or you could identify with, especially in marketing or leadership or anything else.
There was no gay skier that I could think of at that point.
There's no one. Yeah. No one on the athlete side. There's
no one in the industry that would come out and say what they really were.
No. And it was at a point in my life where I was riding pretty high, right? Like, I've been given this amazing opportunity to run this resort, right? I've proven myself to everyone. I've hidden who I was for so long because I was truly afraid that if I came out, it would be a headwind where people wouldn't grant me opportunities no matter how good my work was or anything else. And it was just time, right? I'd proven I won, right?
So you were keeping this a secret almost, not for your personal self, but almost for your career?
Yeah. Mike, I had sat in meetings like where I heard words thrown around where...
Dude, gay was an adjective.
Everything. Dude, that's gay. This is gay. Conditions are gay. That trick was gay.
Did you ever take a mental inventory before you came out of the closet? And I don't even know if that's the right word to say anymore. But did you take a mental inventory of people that would say the word gay as an adjective and be like, I really don't like that guy?
You get so numb to it, Mike. It just becomes this thing where like, I'm not welcome, or you tell yourself I'm not welcome or safe in this space if people actually knew who I was. And then you decide you just can't let them find out. And would I've been afforded the opportunities that I had if people knew? Maybe not, right? You look in a meeting, you see old white guys with like a cross around their neck hanging out of their flannel shirt, and you're like, that's a red flag to me.
That guy hates me.
That guy, like, he's not going to want me showing up to like the fucking mixer with everyone else's spouses with my boyfriend. They're not going to want to hear, hey, how was your weekend? Oh, it was great. Me and the boyfriend went to wine country. They're not going to want to hear that, right? So you just realize, well, if they know, are they going to not grant me the opportunities I deserve based off of the merit of my work or my work ethic or everything else?
But I feel like it went from nothing to letting people know to fucking foot on the gas. This is what I'm doing and you're going to like it. And if you don't like it, whatever, because the world at that point should be ready to accept it. But the ski industry definitely wasn't ready to accept it at all. And while you got a ton of support from friends, I would think, everybody that knows you, we don't care at all. It does not matter one bit who you like or whatever.
No, I think you do care, right? Because I posted that on Instagram, and I remember posting it, and just I had this like sink, like it was like I was pulling a knife out of my stomach.
I can't even imagine how it felt. Yeah.
Well, it's like you massage the words over and over and over, and like you're trying to be authentic, but also like not like woe's me, blah blah blah, like, and then you post it, and you're like, Jesus Christ, what are people gonna say, right? And you're like, who's gonna unfollow me? Who is gonna text me saying congratulations? Who's never gonna talk to me ever again? Who's gonna be, well, I knew it the whole time, like that kind of shit. There's just so much going around your head, and like I remember posting it, and I turned my notifications off on my phone. And even though they were off, right, you open Instagram and you hit refresh like a million times.
Yeah.
And it was just this overwhelming wave of like positivity and support. And my close friends knew, my family knew at that point, but I didn't tell like everyone. And you've been following. I'm kind of an open book online. At least you guys thought I was an open book.
Yeah.
And I was an open book about almost everything except this. And it was like every time I opened my phone, it was a hug, right? Or a high five. Or someone being like, fuck yeah, I love you, I'm sending you a text, or my emails blew up, and it was just overwhelmingly positive stuff. And it was such like a weight lifted off of you, because you just run through all the bad outcomes prior to hitting send. You never think about like, what's the good that can come from it? well, at least in my head, what's every bad thing that's headed my way? And like, I got to have my defense up for this because I just assume a tornado of shit's coming my direction. And it wasn't.
Well, I would think that it's like 1,000,000 pounds lifted off your shoulders because you can be who you are finally and let people know. But at the same time, you're an internet guy and you know how mean people can be on the internet. Does it bother you, all the shit that people talk? Because I'm sure with all the good, there's 3 times as much bad of people just being mean. People that you don't know.
I'm not sure if it was 3 times as much bad, but it definitely got like really gnarly. You know, I'd say for every 10 people that had my back, there was maybe 1 or half a person that just wasn't having it.
But those are people you know. But I'm just saying the random people.
Oh, no. Oh, God, the random people were atrocious.
Yeah, just like the people that are mean.
Oh.
Because you're anonymous on the internet, and you know that. You can do that. That's part of the internet and how it is. And there's people that are just assholes.
Yeah, they're cowards.
Yeah. Does it mess with your mental?
Yeah. Yeah, a lot. Like, I'm not sure how much you know about it. And like,
I don't.
Oh, well. Okay. So I come out. Anyone can post anything online, right? So people start leaving 1-star reviews on Snowbird's Yelp pages and Foursquare when that was a thing about me being the faggot marketing director. 1 star, right? They start taking photos of me from Instagram and my LinkedIn stories, or not LinkedIn, Instagram stories, and posting them to websites saying that, like, I slept with them at the Cliff Lodge and gave them herpes, or I have sex with all the guests at Snowbird, and, like, I have this, like, secret room in the Cliff Lodge that I use to, like, bang people, or, like, all these incredibly heinous and hurtful things. And I'm like, I would just go to work in the morning and I'd like all the Google search results set up for like my name and Snowbird and everything else. And I would just come in and be like, wow, this is like super hateful.
So every day sucks for you?
Not every day. Like a lot of days, you just realize it just wears on you after a long time. Like, you shouldn't have to go to work in the morning and get an email where someone wrote something incredibly shitty about you online. That's a complete lie. And is just trying to like smear your name across the internet or like tank your search results. So like when people search for my name, like that kind of shit would come up. It's pretty demoralizing. Especially when you're like trying to do right by the resort, your job, your team, the sport, the culture. And you're just like, wow, there are just some people that just don't give a shit. No matter how much good I'm doing or how hard I'm working or anything else. Or that I'm trying to like live my own life aside from skiing and like grow as a person. They just don't care. They just want to cut you down and be absolutely heinous to you.
They probably just think it's a post that they can write in 10 seconds and they don't realize that it not only impacts you, but it impacts your profession. And thinking about your profession, like you're sitting in these meeting rooms with dudes who have crosses hanging out of their shirts, and they obviously believe in the church or they believe in whatever they believe in.
Well, it is Utah.
Yeah. And does that impact your job? Because, you know, I don't know how you left Snowbird, and I'm sure you can tell us now. But, I mean, do you end up having to leave, or do they end up letting you go, or how does the whole thing go? Because I would think that this is all tied into it, because you've created award-winning marketing campaigns that this resort could not ever even think of for the past 20 years.
Wait till you hear about the revenue that we made.
We're not even going to hear about the revenue, but you guys made a lot of revenue, and you got the core skier back here. But is that why you end up not being at Snowbird anymore? Do you lose your job because of your sexuality?
I lost my job for a lot of reasons, Mike.
What are the reasons?
I'm a personality. You see that now.
Yeah, but you've always been a
I've always been a personality.
Yeah. You get that when you hire DigiDave.
If I'm on your side, I'm 100% on your side.
You're not on Snowbird's side anymore.
Not,
You're on Alta's side.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. Should have worn my Alta hat for this. My star started to shine too bright for people there. And I came into our GM's office one day in like April, and that was it. They asked me to leave right there. You're done.
No 2 weeks, get out of
our
office?
No. I had to stick around for 6 or 8 weeks. I had to have an anti-disparagement clause. There was a lot of money tied to it. They didn't give me a reason why they wanted me gone. I asked if it was because of my performance. They said no. Sure as hell wasn't my performance.
No, you killed it.
No.
You outperformed anybody in the industry at that point. There's not one resort that can say that they did better than Snowbird at the time you were at Snowbird.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I thought so too. And so did Adweek. And it was, we don't want you here. This is the money we're going to pay you to be quiet about it. And this is the money, or the second half of the money if you continue to be nice to us. Here's the narrative. And we don't know how to unwind you for this job in a short amount of time. We need you to stay until the end of the season, put on a happy face, and then we want you out.
So that's your transition into the tech world, is personal decisions on your part played into your professional life, and people couldn't handle them.
I don't think people could handle me in general. I'm high energy, I'm high passion.
But if you would not have come out and you would have not have been very vocal about all the things you were doing, I'm moving to Kansas City with my boyfriend, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, there's nothing wrong with it. It was intriguing because it's great to see this guy finally spread his wings and be himself, because he's always been a personality. We've always known them. They hired you because of what you are. It wasn't like you changed to go to Snowbird. It was just that you finally became yourself after a few years there. And once you became yourself and they had to deal with it, and given it sucks that people were assholes online, that probably plays into it as well. But it was really, these people couldn't handle the truth and do what was right and stick behind you and back you up. They just said, fuck it, we'll get rid of this guy.
They didn't like me.
They didn't like you as a person the whole time, or was it just like that last year?
Stuff started going weird maybe 8 months prior to my departure. The tone just shifted. It was very weird. What was originally a very good relationship with my boss above that became sour, and I didn't know why. Wouldn't tell me why. I don't think he's homophobic or maybe a bad person. I think he's just an asshole. It's one thing if you tell me that I'm gone because I'm not doing my job. If you get rid of me and won't give me a reason why, then I get to draw my own conclusions as to why. And I just wasn't welcome.
So one thing that is interesting to me is that when you come out, you're like one of the first people that says, hey, I'm gay, I'm proud, deal with it. And you let people know exactly who you are. And while a lot of friends are proud of you for coming out, and a lot of people are also upset about it because they can't deal with having a gay person in the industry, there's a lot of gay people that really don't know how to deal with it. Do people reach out to you and say, hey, Dave, how do I deal with this?
I got so many emails from people in the industry that were afraid to come out in the closet, asking me how they get the strength to do it, or saying that I was an inspiration to them. I never did any of this to be an inspiration or like set a mold or do any of this stuff. I did what I thought was right for me, but then I realized so many other people are struggling with the same kind of personal issues or demons. It's hard, right? Because they live in smaller mountain communities. I'm here in Salt Lake City. At that point, we had a gay mayor, right? Salt Lake City itself is like a blue bubble in a sea of red, right?
Right.
It's a great welcoming community for the LGBTQIA people. I keep saying community, but that's because kind of is here in Salt Lake. But they might be in like Whitefish, Montana. They have white supremacists like picketing around and like
people want to kill them.
People want to kill them, right? Like, and they live in these like smaller rural communities, and they don't have the support network that they are. Or they're going to come out and be that one gay person in town. Do you want to be that one gay person in town, or the second gay person in town, or a third? No, you just want to live your fucking life, right? So many people reached out and were like, how do I deal with this? And I'm like, I was as honest as I can. Like, I just figured out how to deal with it for myself. But what I will tell you is, like, personally, I feel better about who I am and who I can authentically be because of that. If that means that, like, you need to find a safer place to do that, or, like, confide in friends and, like, figure it out, then, like, just do that. But not everyone had the same ability as I could, because geographically where they live, right? There's a dating pool here in Salt Lake. I didn't have people to date in Aspen or Tahoe, right? Here in Salt Lake, I do. But it was just super emotional to me just to realize that there are other people out there that were going through the same thing that I have that were still trying to figure it out. And they were contacting me for hope or inspiration or just a shoulder to lean on or someone to talk to. And like, dude, my heart broke almost daily because like it'd be either in my Instagram DMs or in email. And it's like, hey, I feel like I can confide in you in this. So like, please don't tell anyone. And I'm like, absolutely fucking not.
Right.
And I didn't confide in anyone in the ski industry because I didn't have anyone who I could talk to. There wasn't anyone, right?
Yeah, you're the first.
I was the first, yeah, right? And I'm like, oh my God, at least like I can kind of be there for these people even if it's just answering an email or like a text message or an Instagram DM or whatever. But like, it's tough, man. Like it's not as easy as you think, especially in the ski industry.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. And it's like,
Sucks.
you are the dude that people can reach out to now because they know that you're going to get back to them and give them your advice. And
Except if they're looking for a podcast sponsorship. Apparently that's
to take it all the way back to the
that's
beginning.
a callback, Mike.
I love that there. So that's going to take it all the way back to the beginning. And eventually, you ended up going into the tech world. You ended up at Pagely. Then you end up now at GoDaddy. And like, you will let everybody know because you've kind of always had a chip on your shoulder of like, hey, what I'm doing is awesome and what you're doing is okay. And that's part of who Dave is. And that's totally fine. But now you're at GoDaddy and you're in the tech world. This is a totally different industry. And that's where I'm going to end the podcast. And some people were saying, hey, we want to go for 5 hours. But I said, no, I don't go for 5 hours. I go for an hour and a half. And then we do our inappropriate questions. This is the part of the show that you were afraid of. And you really shouldn't be afraid of it. And I'm going to throw someone gently under the bus first. So, Ryan Amirault.
Oh!
Your cousin. Last Wednesday, I emailed him and I was like, or I messaged him on Twitter and I was like, hey, Ryan, do you know Dave well? Are you his brother? Because I didn't know. He's like, I'm his cousin, but we're like brothers. And he said he would do it. He didn't actually say, yes, I will do it. But he's like, yeah, I'm reaching out to people. I'm going to get some juicy questions. It's going to be great. And then yesterday, he totally flaked on me.
Well, his daughter was in the emergency room.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ryan. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So I didn't know all the details that were going on. Sorry that your daughter was in the emergency room. But I was super bummed and disappointed on you because I gave you 7 days. And I even told you that I think Dave's sister would be a great person to talk to. But he was not able to get questions from your sister. So what I did was first I went to a local here because I was like, I reached out to a bunch of people. I'm like, I'm scrambling. I need to get some people to do this inappropriate questions thing. And I was able to get a guy who won an X Games gold medal. I think you call him T Prism, or some people call him that.
He did win X Games.
Yeah. He won X Games. And I'm going to jump into Taylor Pratt's first question from you. So he gets to give you 2, and then I'll let you know who gives you the other 3. Here we go with T Pratt.
So, Digi, you threw me a surprise birthday party during COVID a couple of years ago. What was the present that you got me?
Okay. Start of COVID, Taylor had broken up with his girlfriend. My buddy Eric broke up with his girlfriend, and I had broken up with my boyfriend at that time. We were all kind of living in my house in Sugar House, like the 3 lonely boys. And Taylor's birthday happened to be end of spring, and we were all ski touring every night. It was the only safe thing we could do, right? It was COVID, couldn't go anywhere. Wash your groceries, wear gloves everywhere.
So crazy.
It's so crazy, right? Like, put your cell phone in a UV light case.
Yeah, I mean, wash the groceries. Everybody did that. It's so crazy.
Stupid, right? So we were ski touring, and I have this thing called the Patsy Marley Sunset Club. This is peak called Patsy Marley in Little Cottonwood Canyon. It looks directly west, down canyon, has perfect sunset views, and it was Taylor's birthday. So we decided, you know what? Let's do a socially distant birthday party for Taylor. We're going to do the Patsy Marley Sunset Club, invite all his friends, ski tour up at sunset, have some drinks, and just high-five our boy, right? We've all had a tough year. My buddy Eric puts like a 70-pound pack of liquor on his back, goes up before us, makes a snow bar, puts all the liquor bottles out, beers. It's fucking awesome. I'm with Taylor. We're skinning up the mountain. Takes like an hour and 10 minutes to get there. We get to the top. All his friends are up there. Surprise! Like, great stuff. Of course, it's his birthday. I'm going to get him a gift, right? Taylor's single at this point. Maybe he needs a little assistance in the self-care, self-love department. So I went on Amazon, Mike, and I searched for a fleshlight, and I sorted by price. Found the cheapest one I could possibly find. It was like $23, $24.
Feels like chipped teeth.
Oh, dude, it was probably like wood chips on the inside. It was terrible, right? Like, it was like broken English on the package. Like, it was so Chinese it hurt, man. Like, broken English. It was called like Jessica's dog or something. Like, it was like the world's worst thing. We get there. It's wrapped. Happy birthday, Taylor. Give him this gift. He opens it. Opens a fleshlight on top of this beautiful mountain with all his friends. This isn't where the story ends. Taylor, being the proud man that he is, I'm not gonna have that thing, blah, 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 right? He opened it on top of the mountain. It's open. Surely Amazon's not gonna let me return it.
Yeah.
False.
He returned
No, I returned it. So he says, I'm not gonna keep this thing. you already opened it because we were wiggling. I'll send you the pictures for
promoting it?
Yeah, promoting the episode. He's wiggling the fleshlight on top, and I'm like, it's like, there's no way Amazon's going to let me return it. Open the Amazon app, select it, return, reason, didn't fit. And they said, drop it off on an Amazon locker. Like, what? And this is why I think that, like, 2/3 of everything on Amazon ends up in a landfill.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's Taylor's birthday gift. I got my money back. It was amazing.
So that's a good one. We're going to go with the second one, which I thought would be better than the first one, but I don't even know anymore.
So we have a bar in Salt Lake City that I personally love. Digi can confess his love for it later, but why don't you go into the time that we got maced in that bar?
And you thought it wasn't going to get better than the fleshlight. Okay, this bar is called Ex-Wives Place, and it is as if a urinal cake became a bar. It is absolutely fucking putrid, Mike. Beers are like $1, like for a Miller High Life. There's a vending machine that has like Doritos and cigarettes. It's just like ripped up pool tables and dartboards.
5 French ticklers in the bathroom type place?
Oh, no. That's assuming the bathroom had things on the wall. So occasionally we like to go there because it's a good kind of melting pot. You go play pool, like skiers are there. It's the scene, right? So we're there one night, a particularly rowdy night at Wives. We're in there playing pool, and then all of a sudden our eyes just start like fucking watering, man. Like every mucous membrane in our body is being turned inside out. Like, what the fuck is happening? This dude who is getting kicked out of the bar, as the bouncer's like, you gotta fucking go, takes mace and sprays it in the air as his little exit gift to the entire bar, right? So we're like, oh, like we're all fucking dying, right? Like shirts going over the nose, like figuring out where the fuck to go, right? Grab our drinks, and Wives has like a patio on the back. So we bust out the back door.
It's like a Great White Show in Warwick.
Oh, too close.
Sorry.
That happened like a mile from my parents' house.
Very sorry.
Yeah, it was a hot concert. Too soon. Anyway, we're all out back. You'd think like the proprietor of this bar, whoever works there, would come out and be like, hey guys, we're shutting the place down. Sorry. Oh no, it's still open. Still good to go. And we're running out of drinks. So like, we're not being asked to leave. We're all out back and we're drunk and we want to get more drunk. So we all look at each other and be like, who's going in for beers? So we kind of Rochambeau for who has to run inside the bar, buy beers, and then run out through the mace. And it's not just us doing this. It's like everyone at Wives. Like running in, like crying, like you'd shoot out the back door, like tears running down your face. And you're trying to buy as many like $1 Miller High Lifes as you can. It was like adult double dare, dude. It was fucking wild. But we made it happen. And then after a couple hours, the mace kind of subsided and we went back in and it was just a little spicy on the inside.
So the guy that got kicked out won.
Yeah, definitely. And now we have a story to tell on a podcast.
Very well. So now we go into the real inappropriate questions. And these were done by Mike Rogie, who owns the Mountain Gazette. He is considered the 4th child of your family, I believe.
He is.
He's very tight with your brother and sister. So he called your brother and sister. So it's not just Mike Rogie asking these questions. It is Dave's brother and sister asking these questions as well. So we're going to jump into question number 3 on inappropriate questions, but Mike Rogie's question number 1, and here we go.
Okay, Dave, so I was not arrogant enough to think I could ask these on my own, so I went to Kate and Andrew Amirault, a.k.a. your sister and brother. Number 1 comes from Kate and I. Dave, you're super into cars and having the best shit, but you used to drive a VW shitbox that only had 3 doors that open. Kate and I would like to know, Dave, did that car have snow tires? And if it did or did not, why is having snow tires the cross that you wish to die on?
I had a 1991 Volkswagen GL. I would joke with people that the GL stood for ghetto luxury. It had a sunroof, but you had to open it with a crank.
Okay.
That was the ghetto luxury. It had Thule roof racks, and my first 2 years driving it, it didn't have snow tires, then it did. Because I didn't want to die in that car.
All right, so he wants to ask if it's the cross you're going to die on.
Yes.
We're not even going to talk about that.
No.
I hear you.
Have snow tires.
Yeah, it's that simple. But I'm going to bring up a different story when you were at Freeskier, you totaled a Freeskier vehicle. What happened there?
I did. That was gnarly. We were driving back from X Games. It was Mike Rogie and I. And it was one of those instances where X ended. Like, remember when pipe finals were at night?
Yeah.
And, like, you go to pipe finals, was over, and they would literally start breaking down X Games after pipe finals.
Yep. It's over. We got to get out of here.
It's over. We got to go. Like, y'all can't go home. Get the fuck out of here. This is when things were so tightly booked. SIA was, like, the next day.
Yeah.
In Vegas.
Everybody missed the X Games because of SIA.
Totally.
Yeah.
But I was working at Freeskier. You can't miss X Games and you can't miss SIA because that's where the publishing team goes and sells the magazine.
That's where you make your money.
That's where you make your money, right? So I got to drive home from X that night and then wake up the next morning and get on a flight to Vegas at like 7 a.m. We're driving home from X. I remember talking to Pat Crawford and being like, yo, roads are gnarly. Like, I don't know if I should be driving home. Crazy winds, huge storm hitting Colorado, like upslope front range storm. Nuts. I-70 was open, but you knew it was going to close. So Mike, at that point, was working for Powder. And we both were in the same boat. He was covering it for Powder, me for Freeskier. We both had to be the next day in Vegas. So at that point, we were sponsored by Toyota, and I had a FJ Cruiser, which I call the Fj Rollover, which you'll find out why. We get in, pack the car, drive back home. We're driving into, like, home stretch into Boulder, passing El Dorado Canyon. For anyone that knows Boulder, the second you pass El Dorado Canyon, it is a wind tunnel. Behind us is a cop. And we're all crawling on the road trying to get home, right? Speed limit's probably 60. We're driving like 30. White knuckle driving. Mike's asleep in the passenger seat. We've got a car full of gear. We're almost home. It's like 11 or 12 at night. We pass El Dorado Canyon. And this FJ, which had a giant roof box on it, because, you know, sponsored by Thule or Yakima or one of those. Thing was a giant sail. Had a tail rack on it. Past El Dorado Canyon, it blew the car over.
Just wind hits the roof rack.
Wind hits the whole car, and I just feel the thing tilt, and I'm just like, we're going over. Rolled the thing off the road. Cop was behind us, watched the entire thing happen. So it's not like we were driving erratically or fast or anything.
No tickets or anything.
No tickets, no nothing. He was just like, are you guys okay? I literally watched the car blow over in front of me.
And rolls like 3-4 times?
No, like once. I mean, we weren't going fast enough for it to, like, go crazy. But, like, there's a small embankment off the road, so the car rolled. Windows are shattered. Like, our gear's everywhere. There's light stands and, like, Ellen Chrome stuff everywhere. Mike's bag, my bag, shit everywhere. Glass in our hair. And we're like, now we got to go to SIA. I'm on my phone. We're both on our phones calling everyone we know. Can you come fucking get us? We're, like, almost home. On the side of the road, there's a cop, blah, blah, blah. We end up getting home. I forget it was with the cop or Greg Wright, one of those two. But, like, we both made it to SIA the next day. And I remember being on the show floor and, like, running my finger through my hair and picking out a piece of glass. And people on the floor were like, yo, I heard you got into a car accident. I'm like, yeah, like 9 hours ago, 10 hours ago. Like, what the fuck? So, like, our story for SIA was like, yeah, we're here to sell you on, like, V10 or V11 or Freeskier, all these cool digital properties. Like, yo, is Dave okay? He just got into a car. He was with Rogie? What the hell happened? So, like, it was just this, like, talk of the trade show where, like, we came home from X, rolled a promo car, and then went right to Vegas.
Scariest moment of your life other than when you press send on coming
Yeah.
out? Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. But you're able to live through it. We will go with your second inappropriate question from Mike Rogie and your family. Here it goes.
Okay, this one is special. It comes from all three of the Amirault siblings, including me, which is an unofficial one according to your parents. True or false, Dave? You had or have an obsession with the band Jamiroquai. Did you ever try the virtual insanity dance alone in your room? And did you ever used to dance alone in the parents' basement with glow sticks?
Yes, probably. Maybe.
You would remember if you had glow sticks in your basement. Do you remember?
Oh, yeah. No. I mean, like, absolutely with the glow sticks. I mean,
by yourself in the basement.
I don't know
dancing?
about alone. Maybe. I don't know.
I mean, dancing in your basement with glow sticks would be one of those things I think you would do by yourself, I would think. I don't know. I mean, unless you had friends that like to dance with you with glow sticks.
I mean, maybe when you're trying to, like, figure out how some substances work.
Well, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense, too. I mean, but we're not going to talk about substances.
Yeah, weak question by Rogie. He could have done way more digging on that. I was expecting some Hunter Mountain questions out of Rogie.
No, there's no Hunter Mountain questions, but I did get a great photo to promote you your senior year in high school with a K2 ski with a piezoelectric dampening device that Kate says I better promote the podcast with.
My senior pictures were me with the K2 Power Mamba.
Yeah, I've got it.
Fuck yeah, ski was great. It's no 1080.
Here's your final inappropriate question. I told you they weren't that bad.
The first time I ever drank on anyone's expense account, according to your brother and I, was yours. You love expense accounts, Dave. What's the most amount of money you spent on a company's tab that you worked for? And how did you talk your way out of that huge expense?
Oh, that's a good one. I mean, I've ordered helicopters for photo shoots as a surprise before, but those usually pretty justify when it's a marketing expense. Oh, okay, no, here we go. I got one that got me in trouble, Mike. Aspen used to have an event called Schneetag, Red Bull Schneetag.
The Slitten Dog.
Yeah. Shanty makeshift bullshit crafts. Skim across a pond if you make it. People hold up cards and make bullshit judging calls that are mostly based on friendship.
It's their Flugtag for snow.
Totally. 100%. Nailed it. When getting judges for this, usually you pick like one person from the company, one person from town, and then one complete wild card. In Aspen, the most wild card of wild cards, his name is Benny the Blade. He's a guy that did way too much acid, wears jean shorts, jeans when he skis, is always donning neon, has bleach blonde stringy hair, wears Arnett like sunglasses that are a million years old, and he fucking rollerblades everywhere. If the dude's not on skis, he's on blades. Hence the term Benny the Blade. So in my infinite wisdom, I said, you know who we're going to get for this? Benny the Blade, right? If you're skiing and you see Benny, he's the kind of guy where everyone on the chairlift shouts at him. He's just that local dude, right?
Everybody loves
Everyone
Benny.
loves him. Everyone loves Benny the Blade. No one really knows Benny's story. Some say he lives on Red Mountain in this giant mansion and like dates a rich chick. Some thinks he's burnt out on acid and made a bunch of money in the 80s. No one knows. That's the mystery, right? Let's have Benny the Blade judge. Schneetag doesn't pay anything to be a judge. Benny says, well, you need to pay me. Well, what am I going to pay Benny, right? Benny, at that point, was always at the Sky Hotel in Aspen. R.I.P. Sky Hotel, best fucking pool bar of any place ever. It's been demolished and now it's a Westin. But Benny would always put the vibe out at the Sky Hotel next to the pool. And by vibe, I mean he would skeezily stare at women in the hot tub the entire time. And if Benny was feeling particularly good that day, he'd have a bottle of champagne next to him. So I said, Benny, in order for you to do Schneetag, at the post party, I will drown you in champagne at the Sky Hotel. So, Benny held to his word. He judged the event. He was crazy. He was stupid. People had a great time. The event went off. Post-event party at the Sky Hotel. And I just march champagne bottle after champagne bottle after champagne bottle into the hot tub, into Benny, into the pool, into everyone.
Benny would die for you now.
Like, literally, like, legend, right?
Yeah.
But also, like, if you're an Aspen local, this goes back to the Bay Breeze thing, right? You will never forget that party because it's just Benny the Blade with infinite champagne. I'm putting it all on the Aspen Skiing Company marketing Amex. That was a hard one to justify because they like receipts. And I got thrown into the pool with the receipt in my pocket. Dude, I remember being at home, like, putting this thing above my baseboard heater, being like, oh shit. It was just like a lumped up ball of clay at that point, being like, I need to justify this to the CFO of Aspen and my boss at that point. And I'm already not good at receipts. This is before you could open your phone and take a picture of it.
Sure.
No, I have a wet receipt, and I'm trying to like iron it out. So I remember coming back and being like, okay, this expense, let me tell you, it was for the event team. It was for the judge. And they're like, it just seems like you spent a few $1,000 on champagne at the bar. It's not like I could like send them a permalink to something on Instagram or screen grabs and be like, no, but look at all this value I drove right here. They're like, you're telling us that you spent thousands of dollars of champagne on the loosest lunatic in town for marketing. And I'm like, yes.
It's legendary value. You
Legendary,
can't really put
right?
dollars on that.
Well, look, they're still getting value from it now. Like 10 years later, we're talking about a podcast and like Mike knows about it. And all these other people in Aspen are probably going to DM me being like, I remember that day. That was stupid. I broke my phone in the pool because phones weren't waterproof. But that's probably what got me into the most trouble.
All right, so not as inappropriate as some people have been, and that is quite all right. I want to thank the Amirault family. I want to thank Rogie for putting together the inappropriate questions. As Rogie would want me to say, everybody should buy the Mountain Gazette because it is the biggest magazine you will ever get your hands on.
It's huge.
Yeah, it is huge. But Dave, when I think of you, I think of the digital realm of skiing, and I think there's a few people that made a difference. I feel like Neil made a big difference. I feel like Harvey made a big difference. I feel like they might have been mentors to you. But I also feel like you made a big difference. And unfortunately, you're not in the ski industry anymore. And unfortunately, that's a big loss for everyone in skiing. But you left your mark on the world of skiing. And now we didn't even talk about, I'm going to bring it up right now because I forgot to mention it earlier. But you are on the Salomon program. And you, I will say, is an influencer for Salomon. And that's your program. You're not a pro athlete because your skills are great. But you're not Mike Douglas. You're Dave Amirault. But I bet you're going to sell more skis than their professional athletes. When you thought of them putting you on their team, did you realize that, hey, Abma can put whatever he wants online. I'm still going to sell more skis? Because I saw the engagement you got when you announced that, and it's pretty amazing. It's going to work for Salomon.
Yeah, man. I'm super fortunate. At the age of 40, I got my first, ski contract.
There's money involved?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's crazy, right? There's, incentive and product and, travel, and, I get to work with my friends that I met 15 years ago in the industry, right? And it's product that got me away from a ski company that I loved forever. And I'm so fortunate to be able to work with this company, keep doing what I do. And I said, what's my value here? What do I provide? I'm not a contest skier. I'm not a pro skier. I don't make film parts. I don't blog. And their answer was just keep being Digi Dave, man. Keep being honest, keep being excited about the sport, and just be a net promoter. And I'm like, well, that's what I am.
Yeah, you're going to drive sales. You're an influencer, and people don't sometimes look at that as a positive thing. But for Salomon, I look at it as you're going to be more important than almost a lot of their athletes because you're going to sell more skis than they are. And that's pretty amazing. And I want to thank you for your time. It's been an amazing podcast. You've had a roller coaster of a life, and it's been awesome.
Thanks, brother. And don't worry, at some point I'll be back in the ski industry. Just in what capacity, we'll find out.
So that was time with Dave Amirault, and man, what an incredible career. He's like the king of nerds in skiing, and that's a good thing. But I can't even imagine having to live with a secret like his. Just being worried about people finding out, and the thought of losing friends because they're so closed-minded that they don't accept who you are, and then the stress of putting that out in a world where you know people are going to take shots at you. I mean, people were trying to get him fired from his dream job because he likes men. It sucks so bad, and while I'm sure the hardest part is over, I bet he still has to deal with bullshit like that on a daily or weekly basis, and that's not right nor fair. And if you're one of those people who don't like gay people, for whatever reason, please find another podcast to listen to. I don't want you here, and I want to weed the terrible people out, because that's what I think homophobes are. But I'm going to make sure I cover this topic more in the future because it's important, and there are people out there that are still afraid to be themselves, and I feel like anytime we can talk about this and get this out in the open, it can help, or at least I hope it helps them. That's the show. Now it's time for the review of the week. And this week it comes from Massa Beans. It's a 5-star review titled Way Too Many Good Things to Say. Here is the review. The questions are sharp, hard-hitting, and to the point. The deep level of research and knowledge Mike brings to his podcast is unmatched in the podcast realm. I also appreciate how in tune Mike is with his community and the people. He cares and holds a high standard. Well, Massa Beans, I thank you for that review. I really do care and hold it to a high standard. I was telling my kid the other day, he was asking me why I was working one night really late. And I told him, I was like, hey man, this podcast has my name on it. And anything with my name on it that I'm going to put out there, I'm going to give 110% of everything I have to it. And that's really what I do with everything in life, but especially with something that has my name on it. So that deep level of research that you're talking about and knowledge that I bring to the podcast, well, it's unmatched because I put in that extra effort. And I think when you listen to other podcasts, you're going to find that they're different in the fact that they just don't know the shit that I know. And that's because I put in that work because my name is on this thing. So I appreciate that you realize that. And I hope everyone else does that too, because I'm putting as much as I possibly can into this. So every podcast that I put out is the best interview that that person does. And you don't have to search around the internet looking for another interview with that person. That's my goal. And my goal is also to create a living history of these sports. And I believe that I'm doing that. So again, thank you for that review. If you email me at mike@thepowellmovement.com with your address, I will ship you out a beanie. For anybody else that wants a beanie, you can either buy one on my website or You can submit a review of the week, and if I read it on the podcast, you will get one. And here's what you need to do to submit that review. First, hit the podcast icon on your iPhone. Second, search for the Powell Movement. And even if you already subscribe to me, you still need to search for the Powell Movement. Third, click my logo. Fourth, scroll down to where the stars are. Fifth, give me a star rating and review. It takes about a minute, and if I read your review on the show, you will get that beanie. If you're outside of the United States, I won't ship that beanie to you. And it's not because I don't like foreign countries. I think I've said that again and again. I love you guys, but it's really expensive to ship to you, and it requires a lot of paperwork, both things I don't want to do. So if I read your review on the show, you're outside of the U.S., all you need to do is get me an address of someone that you know in the U.S., and I will ship them a beanie, and they can figure out how to get it to you, or they can wear it themselves. I don't really care. It's not my problem at that point. But I thank everyone for listening. Thank anybody who sends in a review. And I want to thank my amazing sponsors who make this thing happen. Please support them. They are Stanley, Alpine Vans, Elan Skis, Peter Glenn Ski and Sports, and the 10 Barrel Brewery. Have a great week, everyone.